Hello, everyone. Tonight we are stepping barefoot into the frozen hush of a world that existed long before cities, clocks, or coffee. It's 20,000 years ago, and the only sound is the crunch of snow beneath your fur-wrapped feet. You are deep in mammoth country with nothing but breath clouds and your clan beside you. But nobody's speaking. Nobody ever speaks. Your ears are so tuned to silence that even the flap of a raven's wings sounds like thunder. And if you so much as whisper, well, you probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is over there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along the ridge, eyes squinting through a pale dawn mist. Every breath feels like it might shatter into frost crystals. Ahead, your clan leader crouches beside a tuft of wind-blown grass. He raises two fingers, holds them steady in the air. Everyone freezes. Then, with a flick barely more than a twitch, he draws those fingers down, signaling to split up. No words, no sounds, just a trust. For the last few moons, you've been shadowing this clan, learning how to live, how to kill, how to listen. You've realized something strange: these people talk more in silence than you ever did with a mouthful of vocabulary. You used to think language meant sound. Turns out you were just loud. The leader points to the east, and you see it too. The enormous rolling silhouettes of a mammoth herd moving like gray waves across the white plain. You feel a pulse of awe, a shiver, not from cold. These are no cows to be herded. Each step they take breaks the crust of ancient snow with the power of thunder. Someone to your left, not that you dare look, taps your arm twice with a bone-tipped finger. Time to move, but quietly like the wind threading through a pine forest. That's the rule, the first rule. The one everyone knows: wolves don't talk, and neither do you. The clan hunts like wolves. They move in calculated angles, flanking, encircling, anticipating. You've learned that hands can mean anything. A curl of fingers says, "Watch the calf." A slashed palm says, "Trap here," and a closed fist says, "Shut up, I mean it." One girl in the group, maybe 15 winters old, has never made a sound in your presence. But she once told you, using only her fingers and her mouth barely moving, that she liked your face better when it wasn't confused. "You blink like a startled deer," she said. You weren't sure whether to laugh or be offended, so you just nodded. Historians still debate whether language as we know it existed at this point. Spoken communication was certainly possible. Our vocal cords and skull structures were up to the task. But here in this frozen land, noise could mean death. Silence became more than survival. It was a way of life, a culture of hush, a vocabulary of quiet. As you inch closer to the mammoths, every movement becomes a sentence. Your elbow brushing a tree trunk says, "I'm here." Your pause at a boulder says, "Danger nearby." A furrowed brow. That's what the heck are we doing again in this silent dialect? Oddly, this is the same group that believes flatulence is a gift from the sky spirits. They even name them like weather patterns. That one was Whistling Cloud, a man once signed, proudly patting his gut. Culture is weird. You slide down a ridge and land softly, sinking knee-deep in powder. The cold punches through your wrap. You don't curse. You don't yelp. You grit your teeth and glance toward the young girl again. She gives you a single shrug. It means you'll live. She's right. You've begun to understand something deeper than vocabulary, an intuitive fluency in human tension. In the quiet, you've learned to hear hearts, to interpret the tilt of a chin or the stretch of a neck. When language is stripped down to gestures and instinct, you realize how noisy modern life has become. You miss nothing. You feel everything. Suddenly, the leader drops into the snow and waves one flat palm. The signal. Now. The group explodes, not with sound, but with motion. Spears are lifted, rocks are hurled, bodies burst from behind white camouflage trees. You rush with them, every cell in your body screaming while your mouth remains shut. One mammoth cut off from the herd trumpets in alarm. The sound is deafening. Your breath catches in your chest. You and the others close in, tightening the arc. It's brutal, it's desperate, but above all, it's quiet on your end. You don't cheer when the animal falls. You don't clap each other's backs. You don't speak. You wait, breathing like bellows. You look, you remember. Then the leader stands tall and raises two fingers again. The hunt is over, but your silence continues. The flick of a finger meant, move now. It wasn't optional, it wasn't negotiable. It was a command as sharp as any barked word, only it wouldn't get you mauled by a saber-tooth or trampled by an angry elk. In the Ice Age, communication wasn't about sound, it was choreography. And if you missed your cue, well, you'd better hope you were the fastest runner in the group. You're sitting cross-legged in the snow beside a half-frozen stream. Your fingers are numb, but you don't dare rub them together. The leader is demonstrating again, his hands tracing invisible meanings in the air. Each motion is crisp, no wasted movements. Index finger up. Look, a twist of the wrist split, two fingers dragging downward, cover. Everyone around you watches like their lives depend on it, because they do. And yet no one looks tense. They've done this 1,000 times. For them, a hunting plan is like a lullaby, so familiar you could dream through it. But you're still learning. Your signals are too big. Your timing is off. Once you blinked at the wrong time and misread a cue. The entire flank group moved too early. The prey escaped. You wanted to crawl into the snow and freeze out of shame. Ice Age hunters couldn't afford confusion. Their lives were measured in calories and coordination. So they built an entire language from hand signs, facial expressions, and even the way they walked. There was a signal for wait, for help, for he's behind you, and yes, even one for shut up and eat your meat. You'd seen that one a lot. Historians still debate whether these gestures were proto-language or something entirely different. Some say they laid the groundwork for future sign languages. Others think they were more like hunting rituals, ingrained behaviors passed down without the need for syntax or grammar. What's clear is this: they worked. You shift your weight slightly, and the woman beside you shoots you a look, not angry, just sharp. A reminder, stillness is signal too. It says you hold your breath. To pass the time, you try memorizing today's new gestures. One of the elders has been teaching a sign for ice over water. A double motion like slicing and then bouncing your hand. It's useful since falling into freezing water usually leads to a slow, soggy death. Another new one is scattered herd, which is a quick fluttering motion of the fingers followed by a stretch outward. When she shows it, she rolls her eyes as if to say, "I've used this one too many times already." Sometimes the signals seem almost poetic. Approaching danger looks like a bird diving from the sky. Hunger is a slow curling of the fingers toward the mouth, but exaggerated like a child begging. Victory. That one's odd. It's a fist to the chest followed by an open palm, like offering your success to the fire. And it's not just hands. Eyebrows, shoulders, even how you breathe can send a message. A single exhale can mean, "We're too late." A tilt of the head can mean, "Watch him. He's lying." You once saw two hunters have a full argument without a single word, eyebrows flaring, jaws clenched, hands twitching. By the end, one stormed off. Still silent, still furious. An odd fact: the clan believes that your voice is tied to your spirit. If you waste your words on nonsense, your spirit gets thin and scattered like smoke and wind. Children are taught to speak only when the silence wants to be broken. If that sounds poetic, well, it's also extremely practical. When you're hiding behind a snow-covered log, waiting for a 10-ton mammoth to pass, you don't want little Ko yelling about how itchy his boots are. Speaking of Ko, he's 6 years old and somehow already more fluent in signals than you. He mimics your hand gestures when you practice, correcting you with an eye roll and exaggerated repetition. You suspect he's inventing new signs just to mess with you. Yesterday, he convinced you that tapping your nose twice meant good luck. Turns out it means I need to pee. Everyone thought that was hilarious. You still don't know how to say revenge in gestures, but you're working on it. The system has its limits, though. There are some things that just can't be signed. Complex emotions, abstract ideas. Sometimes the older hunters will sit around the fire and sign stories to one another, epic tales of glacier crossings, mythical beasts' lost loved ones. But even then, there's a kind of sadness in the silences between signs. Some stories are too big for the body, too heavy for hands. That's why there's always at least one moment late at night when someone breaks. A murmur, a whisper, just one word. It floats into the cold like a spark, brief, brilliant, and quickly extinguished. Tonight, as the clan rests in a hollow beside a fallen tree, you see it happen. The elder is retelling a hunt from his youth. He gestures wildly, laughter in his fingers, awe in his posture, but then he stops, looks down at his hands, looks up at the fire. "Father," he says softly, the only word he speaks all night. Nobody shames him. Nobody even reacts. They just let it hang there, a delicate offering. Then the gestures resume, and silence wraps around the group like a blanket again. You lie down, arms tucked under you, fingers twitching in your sleep as if still practicing. You're getting better. You'll never be perfect, but you'll learn what matters. Because tomorrow, someone's going to raise two fingers again, and this time you'll move without thinking. The fire told stories without a word. You never thought silence could be so loud until you sat beside a circle of half-frozen mammoth hides, your nose full of wood smoke and your eyes locked on flickering shadows. The old woman across the flames lifts a charred bone into the air. The clan leans forward. No one speaks, not even a whisper. She begins, not with her voice, but with her hands. One curls like a claw, then another swoops low. The shadows dance across the cave wall behind her, twisting into beasts, transforming into warriors. Her arms cut the air like blades. Her face contorts into joy, rage, sorrow. You feel each beat like a drum in your chest. The children are wide-eyed, utterly still. The fire cracks at just the right moment. You've learned by now that stories don't need mouths. Not here. Not in the heart of this glacier-bitten world where wolves stalk the dark and food is a distant maybe. These performances by the elders are more than entertainment. They're maps, warnings, inheritance. One tale starts with the elder drawing a spiral into the snow with the blackened tip of her bone. She mimes snowfall with fluttering fingers, then puffs a gust of breath toward the fire. The spiral becomes a storm. Her eyes widen, her body stiffens. And just like that, the entire clan knows this is the story of the lost hunters. The ones who ignored the signs, who walked into the storm and never walked out. Oddly enough, that same spiral also means I'm dizzy when used by Ko, who insists his dramatic gestures are just as important. He once claimed to have seen a two-headed rabbit near the cliff's edge. His mimed reenactment nearly got him yeeted into the snow by his older sister. But the spiral in this story is no joke. It marks the turning point when survival twisted into desperation. The elder uses a wolf-tooth necklace as a prop, spinning it like a compass. The flickering fire makes it gleam. It's not just storytelling, it's spellcasting. You're mesmerized. The clan watches as she mimics a hunter falling to his knees. Her chest heaves silently. She claws at her own neck, eyes rolling back. The meaning is clear. This is where he dies. The children squirm. No one flinches. Historians still debate whether these non-verbal fire circle rituals were the ancestors of drama or sacred ceremony. Some argue they were mnemonic devices, a way to remember routes, rules, rites. Others think they were just how people passed cold hours without freezing their spirits. Either way, they stuck. Their echoes still live in how we tell ghost stories around campfires. You sit back, your muscles aching from the cold and the stillness. The fire paints your face in flickers of orange and shadow. Every now and then, someone nods in agreement or flashes a gesture to clarify a detail like wolf or river or too much poop. That last one's more common than you'd expect. Tonight's tale ends with the elder cupping her hands like a nest and then blowing into them. A hush follows. You don't need anyone to explain it. That's the hunter's soul returning to the sky. Everyone watches the smoke swirl up toward the stars. One of the other adults slowly taps 2 fingers on the ground. It's not a signal, it's a small thank you, a reverent punctuation mark. You look around and realize this fire is more than warmth. It's a beacon, a stage, a sacred place where silence becomes language and language becomes memory. Earlier, while the fire was still being lit, a younger boy used 2 flat stones to mime his own invented tale about a squirrel who outsmarted a snow leopard. He didn't get far, he fell into laughter before the punchline, but the elders didn't scold him. They let him laugh. Even silence knows when to make room for joy. One woman brings out a piece of painted bone charcoal markings scored into the surface. Lines and spirals, dots and claw marks, a relic. She places it at the center of the circle. The elder nods to her, then draws from the bone's designs, i.e., a new story maybe, or an old one reborn. You wonder, were these markings a form of writing, a way to codify their silent language, or just decorations? Historians are still unsure. The truth may lie somewhere in between language born of necessity, art born of firelight. But there's no debating what it does to you. You sit straighter, you breathe slower, you feel your heartbeat sinking to the rhythm of invisible drums. The silence becomes not an absence, but a presence. Thick, intentional, alive. One moment that stays with you is when the elder finishes and simply sits back. No bow, no applause, just silence. Then one of the children slowly places a piece of mammoth hair on the fire. It flares bright blue for a second before dying down. That's the end. That's the curtain drop. You've seen it now. A silent language that tells you what happened long before you were born and warns what could happen again. Later, as you lie curled in your wrap under a sky full of stars, your fingers twitch in the memory of those gestures. You try to copy them clumsily. You fail, but the story's still there. Inside you, like smoke in your ribs. And you know tomorrow night, someone else will lift a bone beside the fire and another story will dance into the silence. Even babies knew to be quiet. You learned that the hard way during your first close encounter with a saber-tooth. The sun hadn't yet climbed the jagged edge of the eastern cliffs when you and the others left the shelter to check the meat caches. You were in the rear half. Dreaming feet dragging just a little too loud. A mother with her infant strapped to her back turned, raised her brow and signed sharply, soft feet. You nodded, slowed down, tried again. The trail bent near a rocky shelf frosted with icicles the size of mammoth tusks. That's when the clan leader suddenly halted mid-step. One hand raised flat vertical. Everyone froze. Not a bird, not a squirrel, no rustle, no sound. But you felt it, a presence. Then, gliding like a ghost through the shadow of a fallen pine came a shape. Too low to be a bear, too smooth to be a wolf. Your throat clenched. A saber-tooth beige, as the dust of a forgotten dream, shoulders rippling, moving with a terrifying calm. And right then, as if summoned by Murphy's Law of Ice Age survival, the baby stirred. A tiny gurgle, a wet sniffle. You remember praying not to a god but to the concept of silence itself. The mother didn't panic. She didn't even flinch. She slowly, methodically reached into the fur wrap and pressed her palm lightly over the infant's mouth. Not tight, not cruel, just firm, just practiced. The child blinked, looked up, and went utterly still. Even babies knew. Later, someone explained it to you, not with words, of course, but through an improvised pantomime, a cluster of rocks for the clan. A small pebble as the baby, a sweeping motion of claws nearby. Then a flat hand gesture gone. A chill ran through you that even your mammoth hide boots couldn't fight off. Historians still debate the extent to which Ice Age communities actively trained their children in silent behavior, especially in the earliest months of life. Was it instinct necessity, generational trauma passed through muscle memory? The answer might be all of it, and more. You saw it daily. Toddlers mimicking hunting signals in their games. Children learning to express hunger, fear, boredom, and sass using nothing but their eyebrows and bare feet. It wasn't coddling, it was survival training wrapped in love. One of the youngest boys, barely 4, had a gesture for, "I'm sad because I dropped my bone toy," that involved a dramatic flop onto the snow and a mournful waggle of his lower lip. It was funny the first 3 times. Then he did it during an actual stalk and flush drill, and the leader nearly threw a snowball at him, very silently, of course. Even play was quiet. Kids played chase without screams. Hide and seek was deadly serious, and the best hiders were rewarded with scraps of dried fish or a carved feather. No one yelled ever. If a child screamed, it meant something had gone very wrong and the entire clan moved as one. Once in a moment that still echoes in your bones, a sharp whistle tore through camp. Everyone dropped. Everyone. You two hit the ground, eyes darting. But it wasn't a predator. It was a child, a new one testing boundaries. The mother didn't yell. She walked over, knelt, and signed something simple. Then she hugged the child. Then she signed again. The meaning was clear. "I love you, but you just endangered everyone." The child cried, but even their crying was soft, stifled against a shoulder. Oddly enough, the clan had a very different response to noise during storms. Thunder blizzards. Howling winds. That was party time. Laughter. Singing in signs. Even some voice barely above murmurs if nature's chaos covered it. One evening, a thunderclap shook the valley and 3 kids immediately burst into a choreographed stomping dance, complete with twig drums and fur capes. The leader let it go. For once, the predators weren't listening. There was even a joke gesture done by tapping your nose and blinking 3 times. It meant "I hear the spirits farted." It sent the kids into silent giggle fits every time. Adults tolerated it barely, but discipline when it came was swift. Not with punishment, with silence withdrawal. A kind of cold shoulder, except here being ignored meant more than hurt feelings. It meant being outside the signal loop. Lost. Unacknowledged. To a child raised in this world that was devastating. They learned quickly. You once asked the teen girl, yes, the same one who said you blink like a deer, how she learned so young. She mimed a bird's wings folding, then held up a hand to the fire. "We had to," her hand said. Or we disappeared. It wasn't a threat. It was history. The quiet passed from mother to child like a lullaby you learned by heartbeat. You saw it during meals when even hunger was gestured. You saw it in how the children touched each other. Shoulder taps, shared glances, fingers tracing stories on each other's backs. And you saw it again one windless morning when a toddler waddled toward a raven picking at bones. The raven squawked loud, chaotic. The baby flinched, then slowly mimicked the bird's motion. Not a cry, just curiosity. You watched the child stare into the bird's eyes, then turn back to the group and raise one hand. A perfect sign, danger, but I'm okay. You weren't the only one smiling. So yes, babies knew. Not because they were told, but because everyone around them breathed silence like air. Because their first lullabies were in gestures, not sound. Because in this world, noise could be the last mistake you ever made. And because survival, like language, starts in the womb. Wearing silence like a second skin doesn't happen overnight. At first, it feels like trying to walk through cobwebs without flinching. Every itch you can't scratch, every yawn you have to swallow, it adds up. But over time, you stop noticing. The quiet doesn't sit on you like a burden. It seeps into you until it's just part of who you are. You wake before the sun, again. And again, you say nothing. You don't need to. The way your fingers flex as you pull on your fur boots. That's a sentence. The way your breath clouds a little heavier than usual. That's an unspoken ugh cold again. The clan is moving light today, just scouting. You're not hunting, but the silence holds. It always holds. You've learned now that silence isn't just for the kill. It's the language of waiting, of watching, of reading the world around you without trampling all over it with your mouth open. Your feet crunch over snow so carefully that the sound is more whisper than step. Beside you, one of the boys is humming, but not loudly, just a breath through his nose, a rhythm without voice. It's his version of whistling. If he were modern, he'd be that guy tapping his foot during a test. Here he's just weirdly musical. You sign to him. What are you doing? He signs back, thinking noise. Shrugs, adds a second sign, helps me walk straight. Can't argue with that. Historians still debate whether Ice Age humans had a cognitive shift toward internalizing speech as thought once external language became risky. The theory is that the less you speak aloud, the more you speak inside. And the more you think in gesture, the less you even realize you're doing it. You're starting to feel it too? You've caught yourself gesturing in your sleep. Last night, someone told you signed too many nuts with your fingers while snoring. The clan doesn't just speak silently. They laugh silently too, which is somehow even funnier. Imagine a group of grown adults shaking with barely suppressed hilarity because someone accidentally mimed, "I eat squirrel poop" instead of "I smell squirrel tracks." Happens more than you'd think. There's even a universal sign for, "I know I messed up. Please don't bring it up again." It involves tapping your own forehead twice and then holding your hand out like you're offering a snowball. The gesture says, "Yes, I'm an idiot. Yes, I'm owning it. Let's move on." You use that one a lot. Today, you walk with the clan along a ridge overlooking a frozen marsh. You've stopped trying to make conversation in your head and started just being. Every blink, every breath, every twitch means something. Not in some over-dramatic way, just enough. You find yourself smirking without moving your face, letting emotions flow quietly like water under ice. There's a moment when the youngest child trips on a root and flops into the snow. Everyone stops. No one rushes over. No gasps. No shouting. Just stillness. The child looks up, makes the sign for hurt pride but no blood, and rolls back to his feet. A small ripple of silent applause, fingers fluttering like falling leaves, passes through the group. Encouragement, reassurance, dignity intact. You've come to love that kind of gesture. It's not about drama. It's about space. Letting someone fall and then letting them stand up without making it a performance. Oddly enough, the clan does gossip. Constantly. But through glances, eye rolls, eyebrow lifts. Once you start picking up on it, you realize you're surrounded by commentary. That woman walking too close to the man with the limp. 3 people silently raise their brows. One child mouthed the word for trouble without even a twitch. It's worse than high school, but it's also comforting. Because this silent language isn't robotic or cold. It's full of jokes, sarcasm, sass. There's even a hand sign for "nice spear, did your grandmother carve it?" And a gesture you've been hit with more than once that very clearly means, "You think you're clever, but we're not impressed." And there's a special kind of expression, just a tightening around the eyes, a micro pinch at the corner of the mouth that says, "You're not from here, but you're trying." And that counts. You wear that look from others often. It's not judgment, it's invitation. The clan knows that you're still learning. They accept your clumsy signals, your overeager face acting like you're in a silent movie. They don't correct you unless it matters. They just let you figure it out. And it changes you. You stop needing words. You stop chasing conversations. You start noticing things, how the wind changes before a storm, how the snow squeaks differently under elk than it does under wolf. You start listening with your whole body. Silence becomes your skin. And then, because the Ice Age has no sense of timing, your quiet day ends with a snow squall. The kind that turns your hair into frost ropes and erases footprints faster than you can make them. Visibility drops to near nothing. Someone taps your arm once hard. Follow. You can't see who it is. Doesn't matter. You move. For 20 minutes, you slog through blinding snow, trusting the pattern of steps ahead of you, the slight indentations in wind-blasted drifts. You pass a fallen branch and someone has etched a quick sign in the snow beside it, 2 waves, 1 arrow. River path. Keep right. No voices, just trail language. You reach the shelter, a makeshift hide-and-branch lean-to against a rock outcrop, and duck inside. Everyone's wet. Everyone's cold. No one says a word, but you catch someone's eye. A smirk. A gesture. Still alive. Not bad. You reply with your own signal, only just. And they give you that look again. The one that says you're getting there. You're one of them. Not by blood, not by sound, but by silence. Drawing maps with sticks and spit is exactly what it sounds like, and it works. It's how you find your way back when the sky and snow look exactly the same, and even your own footprints lie to you. You squat beside the others in the snow, watching as the clan leader sketches furrows into the frozen dirt with the tip of a cracked antler. His gestures are economical deliberate. This is not art. It's survival graffiti. He spits to soften the snow, quick practice drops, and uses it to smear curves and dots into something meaningful. To you, at first glance, it looks like chaos. Lines, scratches, loops, but then you see it a ridge, a stream, the tree with the broken arm. This is the plan. Today's not a typical hunt. It's an ambush, a coordinated trap. Something big, maybe aurochs, maybe bison. Something with meat enough for days, which also means danger. You're deep in rival territory now, the edge of where your people dare to walk. This is the place where the silence must become strategy. He draws a line with a twist. Cliff edge. A dot and 2 arcs. Sleeping herd. 3 slashes. Wind. Then he points at you. Then a swish to the east, your path. You nod. You don't say, got it. You don't give a thumbs up. You just inhale deep and slow and draw your own line to confirm. You're learning. 1 squiggle at a time. 1. Historians still debate whether these primitive ground drawings were precursors to cartography or simply temporary memory aids. Some argue they were intuitive and spatial, built from instinct. Others suggest they were semi-standardized specific marks with shared meanings across different groups. No one really knows, but you do. Now, their language. Impermanent, low-tech, and brilliant. What makes these maps remarkable is how alive they are. You watch as the elder swipes away part of the drawing and redraws it slightly to reflect a new gust of wind. The map adapts. The plan breathes. And then there are the symbols. You love the symbols. 1 mark, 3 vertical dots is the clan's shorthand for blind spot. A small triangle, hide behind this. A sideways S noise travels here. There's even a mark that looks like a fish, which means don't step here or you'll end up bathing against your will. Oddly enough, that same fish mark also doubles as a joke. It sometimes shows up next to sleeping spots warning, "This guy snores like a bear." Ko, the 6-year-old menace, once drew it on the elder's fur wrap. He got the silent, cold shoulder for 3 days. Worth it. You begin tracing your part of the plan with a bit of deer bone. Your line curls between 2 ridges around a wide dot representing a frozen pond. That's your flank path approach from the west funnel the herd. You tap the end of the line twice to signal ready. The others tap back. Then comes the best part, the spit markers. Someone pulls out a chunk of thawed liver. Don't ask where it's been and smears it across a specific bend in the line. That means ambush zone. The meat attracts flies in warmer months, but now in this frostbitten world it just stains the snow red. A visual cue, a tactile signal, a warning. Before long the map is alive with motion. Fingers flit like birds across its surface, making adjustments. Someone signs wind shifting again. Another wipes away a marker and redraws it farther east. The snow melts under breath and palm. It becomes terrain. And then, just before everyone rises, someone adds a tiny spiral near a rock symbol. You know that spiral. It means spirit path. A reminder this place belongs to more than just the living. It's both a sign and a shield. That's when the tension settles. Because there's one part of this you didn't expect: the decoy path. You're chosen to fake a trail. Not just walking, but misleading. You must leave signs for others, rival clans, predators, even animals that make it look like the clan went west when they're really moving east. It's a performance in footprints, an opera in snow. There's a gesture for this plan too: two hands diverging and spiraling. Confuse and vanish. You rub mud into your boots to leave irregular prints. You walk heavier than usual. You scatter bits of chewed grass to simulate discarded food. It's more than deception, it's story building. You're telling an entirely false narrative in tracks and debris. And guess what? You love it. The others, meanwhile, erase their own presence. Stepping backward, laying branches, covering drag marks. One woman even uses a bundle of foxtails tied together to sweep away signs of camp. It's elegant, it's invisible, it's terrifyingly good. Historians still debate whether such efforts were made to fool other humans or avoid predators. The truth you realize is both. Here, being seen is being endangered. So you either vanish or you mislead. Your false trail takes you to a ridge overlooking a narrow pass. You plant a broken stick in the snow, a known signal for "this is where I went." Or did I? Then you double back, leave no sign of return. And when you finally rejoin the group in a pine hollow, no one says a word. But three people give you that nod, the one that says, "Not bad." One even signs trickster, then smirks. You smirk back, just a little. And later that night, as the clan huddles in silence under a sky thick with stars, you draw your own little map in the snow beside your sleeping spot. Not for a plan, not for anyone else. Just to remember. One spiral, three slashes, a dot fading. A glance could mean betrayal. You don't realize it at first. The morning feels like any other. A pale sun bleeding over the horizon, the crunch of snow under quiet feet, and the cold biting the tip of your nose just enough to keep you awake. You're moving with the hunting group close to the back as always, not because you're unskilled, but because you're still new, still observed, still not fully trusted. The plan is simple: drive the bison toward the gully. Narrow path, steep walls, one way in, no way out. The kind of terrain that whispers to predators, "Come feed." The clan spreads like fingers across the snowy plain. You keep your eyes on the signal chain. Small deliberate movements passed from one hunter to another, like whispers in a gossip line. Right hand up, move forward. Flat palm hold. Two fingers drawn downward, tighten formation. You've practiced this, you've got this. But then it happens. A flick of the hand, a twitch of the wrist, and the hunter to your left, Maru, veers early. Too early. You blink. Did you misread the signal? You glance at the leader ahead, then back at Maru. He doesn't even look at you. The rest of the group hesitates. The formation wavers. You make a choice: follow Maru or hold the plan. You hold, and chaos unfolds. The bison bolt. Not toward the gully, but east, wild fast, a thundering brown blur. The entire valley vibrates under your feet. One hunter slips. Another throws a spear too early. Your cousin Jalen tries to recover the flank. Doesn't make it. You don't see the impact, just hear it. A thud, a crack, a stillness louder than the herd. Then snow stained with something that isn't red but should be. The hunt fails. Everyone returns to camp slowly. No one speaks. No one needs to. Later around the fire, the silent storm brews. Eyes glance, fingers twitch, shoulders stiffen. Someone signs mistimed. Someone else signs Maru saw movement. Maru signs nothing. He just sharpens his blade face, smooth expression, unreadable. You replay the moment over and over. The glance, the twitch, the shift. Historians still debate how Ice Age groups handled internal conflict, especially in societies where verbal confrontation was rare. Did they exile, forgive, ignore? You're watching it happen now, and it's terrifying in its subtlety. No one accuses Maru outright. But the clan moves around him differently now. People sleep with their backs to Hisime Kim. Tools get passed the long way around the fire instead of directly. He's not banished, but he's set apart. And Jalen. He doesn't return. They bury him in the snow under the stone ridge. No markers. Just a spiraled feather tucked under his wrap. It flutters once before the wind takes it. You sit near the grave staring at the frost clinging to your boots. You think about the glance Maru gave. Not a signal, not a mistake. A choice. Oddly enough, the same glance used to mean watch me. Children use it when showing off. Hunters use it before a bold strike. But when laced with doubt, when wielded like a blade, it becomes something else entirely. That night you try to sleep. You can't. Every sound feels louder. Every branch crack feels like a breath too close. You shift in your furs and feel a tap at your shoulder. It's the teen girl again. The one who says you blink like a deer. She sits beside you, signs slowly. You saw. You nod. She signs again. He saw too. Then she taps her temple. But didn't care. You sign back. Why? She doesn't answer right away. Then, some people want to be the story. You don't ask more. You don't need to. In the days that follow, the clan returns to routine. Food gets rationed. Snares are reset. New tracks are followed. The silence wraps around the group again, but differently. Tighter. Heavier. You feel it like a second fur over your shoulders. And you start watching differently too. Every glance. Every signal. Every pause before a movement. It isn't paranoia, it's awareness. In a world where a flick of a finger can save you or doom you, trust isn't a luxury. It's breath and betrayal. It's death, loud or quiet. One evening, as you help scrape hides near the edge of camp, Maru appears. You don't flinch, but you don't greet him either. He kneels beside you, signs something quickly, too quickly. You only catch part of it. Didn't mean. Then he stops. Signs nothing else. Stands. Walks away. You never speak of it. But from then on, you check every signal twice. And when you glance at someone, you make sure they know what it means. Songs without sound feel strange at first, like clapping with your mind or humming with your bones. But once you've truly heard it, you realize that silence can carry melody. Grief doesn't need volume, and mourning can echo without a single word. It begins after a death. Not the kind that takes you by surprise like Jalen's, but the slow kind. The kind that everyone sees coming and no one speaks of. The elder, old as stone and twice as stubborn, had been coughing through the last 2 moons. Thin, eyes dim. Still sat straight by the fire, still carved bones with hands like wind-worn bark. Then one morning he didn't wake. No one screamed. No one wept. But the air turned dense like snow before it falls. You helped carry his body to the slope above camp. No burial, not in this frozen earth. Just a platform of bark and stone. Raised. Returned. The sky would take what the earth could not. And then came the song. Not a chant. Not a dirge. A movement. The clan gathered in a wide circle. No fire, no tools. Just themselves. And they began slow steps to the left, then the right. Shoulders swaying like long grass in wind. Arms extended, hands open, then drawn back. Over and over like breathing. The rhythm was contagious. Not musical exactly, but pulsed. You felt it in your knees, your chest, your teeth. No one led. No one followed. They just moved. Together. The silence between their motions was the harmony. Ko made a soft noise, barely audible, but his mother touched his hand gently. He went quiet. He understood. Historians still debate whether silent mourning rituals were cultural or circumstantial. In predator-rich landscapes, loud grief could attract unwanted attention. But others argue that these ceremonies had nothing to do with survival and everything to do with connection. Shared motion, shared memory. The teen girl. The one who always knows more than she lets on stood near you. She brushed her fingers once across her chest, then lifted her arms. The sign for carry him, not literal, emotional. She carried him in her memory. And then came the breath. Not words, not song, just long synchronized exhales. In, out, in, out. It was like the entire group had become a single creature mourning through lungs and limbs, one rhythm, one sorrow. And then they stopped. Stillness, no signal, just stop. You stood there, heart pounding, and felt your own arms aching from the motion. Your legs stiff, your throat tight. No one moved for a long time. And then, because this world never lets you sit in emotion too long, someone signed fire and the group exhaled again. Not as part of the song, just relief. Oddly, there's a variation of this ritual used for animals, too. When a wolf that had once lived on the edge of camp disappeared, likely dead, the children made a small version of the song for her. Shorter, faster, but the same motion, arms wide, then pulled in like welcoming something unseen. The clan doesn't believe in gods, at least not in the way you were raised to understand them, but they do believe in return. Everything that leaves comes back changed maybe, but never gone. The breath, the steps, the silence, it all helps guide what was into what will be. That night the elder's possessions were burned. Not ceremonially, just practically. His carved bone tools, his furs. All except one object, a curved talon polished smooth, strung on a leather cord. The leader placed it at the center of camp. No one touched it for 3 days. On the 4th, the youngest child picked it up and put it around her neck. Nobody stopped her. You ask the teen girl why. She signs he liked her. Then she watched his stories. She remembers. You think of that talon when you move, when you breathe, when you rest your hand on a stone just to feel the cold of it because he used to do that too. This world doesn't shout about death, it whispers, it moves. You begin practicing the steps in private. Not to grieve, but to remember. You catch your own arms lifting in your sleep sometimes like muscle memory, replaying the song without permission. And one evening you see someone else doing it alone, one of the older women. Quiet. Eyes closed, no audience, no need for one. The silent song lives on, not in words, but in the space they would have filled. The cave that echoed too much was beautiful but useless. Not because of spirits or curses, though that's what the kids whispered when adults weren't looking. No, it was because the very thing that made it awe-inspiring, its perfect acoustics, was also what made it dangerous. You find it by accident. Scouting ahead of the others, following a fox trail up a jagged slope, you slip behind a curtain of frost-draped vines and land hard on your backside. Not your most graceful moment, but what you find inside makes you forget your bruised pride immediately. The cave opens like the mouth of a sleeping giant. The ceiling arches overhead in ripples of limestone and ice. Stalactites glisten like fangs. The air inside feels sacred, thin, crisp, and too still. You whisper almost involuntarily just to see what happens. Hello! The sound slaps you in the face. It ricochets off every surface, doubling, warping, tumbling into itself until it's no longer a word, just sound. Pure ringing sound, like thunder trapped in a shell. You freeze. Even outside, you hear the flock of snowbirds take off all at once. Far away, too far, a wolf howls. The cave doesn't just echo, it amplifies, carries, reveals. You never say another word inside it. Later, you show the clan, carefully, wordlessly. The leader approaches the entrance, peers in, and holds up a fist. Do not speak. Everyone understands. Historians still debate whether ancient peoples avoided certain geographical formations because of acoustics. Some believe these caves were seen as sacred, too loud for mortals, perhaps housing the voices of gods. Others suggest they were practical decisions. If you couldn't whisper inside without announcing your location to every bear, within 5 miles, it wasn't a shelter. It was a trap. You test it with others. One man claps his hands sharply. The echo is deafening. Another tries clicking his tongue. It rings like a bone bell. You swear the walls themselves are listening. The group explores it silently, reverently. Footsteps echo and quadruple. Even the sound of a dropped stone makes people flinch. Ko naturally tries to fart. The echo is so crisp and immediate that the entire group is forced to bite back tears of silent laughter. He sighed smugly. Spirit answered back. Despite the acoustics, the cave is a marvel. Inside are red ochre smears on the wall spirals. Animal shapes, a rough depiction of what might be a human figure with exaggerated limbs. You can't tell if it's a warning or art, probably both. The spiral shows up again, always the spiral. In one corner you find bones, arranged deliberately. A small animal, maybe fox or weasel, picked clean and stacked. Ritual sacrifice accident. No one knows, no one dares ask. The leader signs too loud, too open. The cave is marked on the snow map with a crude jagged line and a dot. It's given a nickname in gesture mouth that bites itself. Meaning if you speak here, the sound turns on you. Still, something draws you back. One night, unable to sleep, you return alone. Not to speak, just to listen. You sit near the entrance and hum through your nose so softly it barely counts. Even that tiny vibration ripples across the chamber and comes back changed deeper, more hollow. You wonder if the echo is honest or if it lies. Oddly, in a strange twist of clan logic, the place becomes useful not for shelter but for testing silence. New hunters are brought here one at a time. They're instructed to sit absolutely still for as long as they can stand it. It's not a rite of passage. It's a mirror. If you can't sit with your own thoughts in a place where every sound feels like a confession, you're not ready. You last longer than most. 4 hours. No sound. Not even a sneeze. When you emerge, the others greet you with the flutter-fingered sign for Echo Keeper. It's both an honor and a joke. Later, someone adds new marks to the cave walls, 3 interlocking lines, the clan's symbol for silent tested. It becomes a tradition, a quiet one. The cave never becomes home, never becomes part of the migration route, but it is remembered, respected, treated the way modern people treat cathedrals or graveyards, with awe and a low-grade fear. Because some places aren't meant for sound. They're meant for reflection. And reflection in the Ice Age might just save your life. Deception in the snow is an art. And today, you are the brush. It's not about lying exactly, more like rearranging truth into something misleading. After all, in the Ice Age, fooling your enemies was as valuable as outrunning them. Sometimes more. The plan starts with a bone. You watch as the clan leader scratches a quick outline in the snow, a curved ridge, a forked trail, a long, flat space that could be a frozen stream. There's a rival group nearby, close enough to smell your fires if the wind shifts, close enough to follow you. You've had one too many hunts coincidentally disrupted, so today you're going to vanish, or at least look like you have. You sign fake trail. He nods, draws a spiraled loop, the symbol for confused doubleback. He wants you and 2 others to plant false signs, broken twigs, leftover tracks, even scraps of food to lead them in the wrong direction. But it's not just about leaving clues. It's about performing a convincing lie. You smear soot on your boots. It'll make your prints darker, easier to follow. One of the women suggests dragging a pelt behind you to simulate heavier group movement. You add a cracked gourd full of fish bones to leave accidental spills. This kind of snow deception requires acting. You must walk like prey, not a predator. Stumble, weave, drop things. Tell a story of panic, of retreat. You find this weirdly fun. Historians still debate whether Ice Age groups regularly engaged in deception warfare or if this was an emergent behavior, something that developed only when rival clans overlapped during harsh seasons. But what you're doing now isn't improvisation. It's practiced, ritualized, nearly theatrical. The teen girl signs make it messy. So you do. You fake a campsite, just enough ash and broken twigs to suggest a hasty rest. A gutted squirrel carcass placed artfully near half-melted snow. You wedge a bent spear into the ice and scratch the clan's migration symbol just wrong enough to be misread. If the rival clan is watching, they'll think you're heading east. You're not. You loop back west, erasing as you go. One of the women uses a pine branch to sweep snow over your returning tracks. Another walks backward for 50 paces. You saw her practice that once with Ko, both of them giggling silently. But today her face is stone. When the group regathers behind a cliff wall, the wind has shifted. You crouch in silence, waiting, watching. The sun is just dipping below the glacier's edge. Your decoy trail glows in the light like a welcome mat. And then movement. Figures on the hill. 5 of them. Too bulky for deer, too smooth for wolves. They fall for it. You don't celebrate. No one even smiles. But you feel the weight of it, the satisfaction of a trap well sprung. Later by the fire, someone passes you a carved piece of bone. It's etched with a spiral and a new mark, 3 staggered lines. You recognize it. The sign for clever. You nod your thanks. Oddly enough, there's a version of this deception ritual that's used in courtship. One clan member creates a trail of sign symbols carved into bark, twists of fiber tied to branches, footprints leading through scenic places intended to lead a potential partner to a hidden offering. Usually a gift of food feathers or something personal. If the path is too obvious, it's an insult. Too obscure and it's never found. Just tricky enough romance. Ko once made one for his favorite dog. It led to a dead mouse and a bone he stole from your pouch. You forgave him. Eventually, the point is, trails lie. Tracks deceive. And in the right hands or feet, snow becomes a message no voice could carry. When you finally sleep that night, your dreams are full of footprints that spiral away into nothing. You follow them for hours, always just one step behind. The snow gets deeper, the symbols more cryptic. You wake with frost on your eyelashes and the odd feeling that you've tricked yourself. You never see the rival group again. But weeks later, you find a set of footprints circling the fake campsite, then retreating fast. A symbol scratched into the bark of a nearby tree, a broken spiral, meaning confused, not safe. You sign it out slowly to yourself. Then just for fun, you answer it 3 dots and a curved line. You blinked. When silence was broken, the entire world seemed to pause. It wasn't a predator, not a rival clan, not some myth whispered by the fire coming to life with jagged teeth. No, it was something more terrifying, more human. A scream. High, hoarse, desperate. It tore through the early morning like an arrow slicing mist. And for a second, just a second, no one moved, not even the birds. The snow seemed to hold its breath. Then everything shattered. The clan scattered instinctively. Bodies ducking behind trees. Hands slamming to mouths, children lifted into arms and hushed with trembling fingers. You froze. Not from fear at first, but from confusion. Because the scream came from one of your own. You found her near the salt rocks kneeling. Her hands bloodied, her chest heaving, her eyes wide. Not from injury, but from what she saw the clan's food cache overturned. Ransacked. Everything gone. Only footprints human leading off into the trees. The scream had escaped her before she could stop it. One moment of shock. One instant of forgetting. And now every ear within a mile had heard it. You knelt beside her, signed quickly. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Just the food." Gone. The leader arrived next. No anger, just stillness. He scanned the scene, taking in the scattered bones, the clawed-up snow, the boot prints that didn't belong to anyone here. And then he did something you hadn't seen before. He signed broken trust. A gesture rarely used. Hands crossed, then pulled apart. Historians still debate whether early human societies had formal methods of discipline, or if group pressure and survival necessity were enough. In your clan, the consequences were subtle but deep. That night, no one sat near the woman who screamed. She wasn't shunned, not quite, but she was distant. People turned their backs gently. Conversations and gesture flowed around her, never toward her. Even Ko, normally incapable of subtlety, looked away when she approached. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. Because once silence breaks, it can't be rewoven cleanly. Oddly, the woman's sister, usually quiet and shy, began standing closer to her, shielding her in small ways, handing her tools, signing more often, a quiet tether in a fraying moment. You felt torn. You wanted to console her, but you also couldn't ignore the gnawing fear. That scream, however involuntary, had invited danger. And the Ice Age doesn't care about apologies. That week was hard. With food gone, the clan rationed fiercely. You skipped meals. So did the children. The hunters grew thin. Patience wore as thin as the furs on your shoulders. Then came the second break. Maru, again. You returned from a scouting trip to find him arguing visibly gesturally loudly with another man. Not yelling, but exaggerated movements, stabbing hands, aggressive eyes. It was practically a performance. You stepped between them, signing stop. Maru turned his eyes on you, cold, flat. You remembered the glance from the bison hunt, and then, without gesture or sound, he simply walked away. He didn't return that night, or the next. On the third day, someone signed ghost. Not literally, just gone. You dreamed of screaming that night. Not hers. Yours. Trapped in your throat like a fist. You woke with your mouth open and no sound. You were grateful. The woman who screamed began sitting alone closer to the edge of camp near the ridge with the wind-carved rocks. One evening she began humming, barely audible. A lullaby maybe, though no one knew the tune. It was quiet enough not to carry, but it was there. You watched the clan react with a strange stillness, not disapproval, just uncertainty, as if no one knew the rules anymore. As if silence once broken had loosened something more important. One night she stood and signed to the fire, "I will not speak again." It wasn't necessary, but it mattered. The leader nodded. Then slowly, one by one, others signed back, "We hear you." You did too. The next day she joined the hunters. Not leading, not flanking, but present. And when the kill came, a stag quick and clean, she didn't cheer. Didn't smile. Just reached into the snow, drew the spiral with her finger and stepped back. The scream was never mentioned again. But the silence that followed it changed. It became chosen again. Not a habit. Not just survival. A promise. Secrets carved in bone don't speak, but they linger. You feel them when you hold the object smooth and worn, not by weather, but by hands. Generations of hands. Hands like yours. You find the relic on a scouting mission with two others off-path beneath an overhang of split rock, where the snow falls strange and vertical. You're not even looking for anything, just tracking faint elk signs. But one of your companions, the older woman with the laugh-line eyes, stops suddenly. She's looking down. At first, you don't see it. Then when she lifts it up, you realize it isn't just a chunk of discarded antler. It's been shaped, smoothed, carved, and it is covered in marks. Not random etchings, not tool scratches. These are intentional. Patterns, swirls, not just spirals, but branching lines like trees or rivers, cross-hatching dots and clusters. She passes it to you. You take it with both hands because you should. It's heavier than it looks, not in weight, in meaning. The three of you sit on your haunches staring at it. The woman signs old, then a shrug. Not ours. You trace a spiral with your thumb. It curves in on itself 5 times. You've seen spirals with 3 or 4 loops and clan symbols before, but never 5. Never like this. Was it a message, a story, a warning? Historians still debate whether early humans used symbolic bone carvings as proto-writing or purely as decorative talismans. Some say these marks recorded events. Others believe they encoded knowledge like safe hunting grounds or migration cues. A few claim they were purely spiritual tokens of protection or remembrance. You don't know what this one says, but it feels like something that wants to be understood. You carry it back wrapped in hide, show it to the leader. He doesn't touch it at first, just looks. Then finally takes it, nods once, and places it near the fire. No one speaks. Over the next few days, people pass it around, always with care. Some just hold it, then pass it on. Others turn it over in their hands, studying the ridges, tracing the marks with their eyes closed. Ko tries to guess what it means. Signs a few silly interpretations map to the mammoth's treasure spirit shopping list. No one laughs. Not this time. One night, the teen girl sits beside you with it. She tilts it toward the firelight, then toward the shadows. Only in the dark do you see it faint scratches at the base. Not decorative, vertical, evenly spaced, like tally marks. You sign count, she nods. Signs back people. The thought settles in your bones. Each mark a name, a life, a loss. It would explain the care, the reverence. And it wouldn't be the first time your clan carried its dead not in stories but in symbols. Oddly enough, there's another bone like it in the leader's pouch, simpler, with only 3 slashes and a single carved eye. He's never explained it, but you've seen him touch it before hunts, like a ritual, a reminder. You begin carving too, small things, on discarded scraps of bone. You copy the spiral, add lines of your own. You don't know what you're saying. Maybe no one ever did, but it feels right. You even dream of this spiral. It opens slowly in your sleep, revealing a map. A path then becomes a hand reaching upward, then a face you almost recognize. You wake before it speaks. The girl tells you her mother used to carve names in fire-softened wood. Said the fire made it easier to write, but also made the memories burn brighter. That wood's gone now. But bone lasts. Eventually, the clan buries the relic in a stone crevice near the old elder's resting place. Not to hide it, to keep it. The girl carves a matching spiral into the rock wall nearby. Simple, unmistakable. You touch it before leaving. It doesn't say anything, but you hear it anyway. The child who spoke to animals never said a word. He didn't need to. The animals seemed to listen anyway. He arrived in late winter, carried on the back of a dying hunter from a neighboring clan. They found the man collapsed in the snow, skin blue at the fingertips, blood frozen into his beard. But on his back, wrapped in hide and fur, blinking quietly at the swirling sky, was a child. Small, too small to survive alone. And silent. He wasn't injured, just still. The clan brought him in, unwrapped him, fed him warm broth drop by drop. He never cried, never screamed, not once. You were there when he first opened his mouth, not to speak, but to breathe, deeply, like the cold air was something sacred. The clan didn't ask many questions. If his parents were dead, he didn't sign it. If he remembered his old home, he gave no indication. But something in his eyes said he knew things you didn't. He followed animals, listened to them, watched them in a way that felt too focused, not just like a hunter, like a student, or a brother. You saw him once crouching near a den, fingers pressed gently to the snow, mimicking the twitching ears of a fox kit inside. The kit crept out, came within arm's length. They stared at each other for what felt like hours. Then it returned to the dark without a sound. You tried the same thing the next day. The fox bit you. Historians still debate whether such children, those with unusually attuned senses and behaviors, were viewed as mystics, anomalies, or simply odd. Some cultures likely saw them as bridges between the human world and the animal one. Others may have cast them out. Here he was kept close, watched, not feared, not quite trusted either. Ko called him Crow. No reason, it stuck. Crow didn't participate in the clan's signals the way others did. He watched them, yes, mimicked them, but often he'd use gestures you didn't recognize. A twist of fingers here, a flat hand pressed over his own eyes there. He invented signs or remembered old ones no one else used. One day, you saw him coax a raven down from a tree with nothing but a raised hand and a slow breath. It landed near him. He fed it a strip of sinew. It returned the next morning with a dead mouse and dropped it at his feet. No one knew what to do with that. The teen girl whispered, well signed, mockingly, "He's not clan, he's forest." You weren't sure if she meant it kindly. Crow began joining the hunters, not at the front, not even beside the leader, but parallel to the group, like an echo. He moved just outside the formation, never in the same tracks, but always aware. Sometimes he pointed out prey before anyone else saw it. Sometimes he disappeared and returned with nothing but a nod and a signal, "Not today." Oddly, one evening, he stopped beside the girl and signed something no one had ever seen, a spiral. Then he drew two lines through it. No one knew what that meant. But the next day, a small landslide covered the southern ridge, exactly where the clan had planned to camp. He didn't explain. The leader began consulting him quietly, not about plans or maps, but weather, wind, vibe, gut. He was never wrong. You followed him once, not in secret. He knew you were there. He led you to a clearing where wolves had gathered, 6 of them lounging, gnawing at bones. He crouched near the edge, didn't move. You wanted to scream, to run, but he just waited. And then one of the wolves stood padded over and sat 3 feet away, stared at him, then at you, then back at him, and then trotted away. Crow signed, "They know I know." Later you asked the girl what she thought he meant. She signed, "He doesn't speak their language, he just stopped speaking ours." Some nights he would sit apart from the fire, staring into the dark, mimicking owl hoots with his hands. No sound, just the motion. And every time an owl would call back. Eventually, people stopped calling him odd. They just let him be. He didn't become the leader. Didn't even want to. But the clan moved differently with him near, like having a weather vane that pointed towards survival. Ko made him a necklace, 3 raven feathers, and a carved pebble. Crow wore it once, then gave it back tucked into the crook of Ko's neck while he slept. And then, one morning, he was gone. No signs, no tracks, just a single symbol drawn in the snow near the fire. A spiral, and next to it a paw print. But not from anything that should leave prints that big. Not all clans stayed quiet. You'd heard whispers, gestures about them long before you saw one. The chanting people, the breath singers, the ones who dared to speak to the sky and didn't immediately get eaten by something with too many teeth. You assumed they were stories, maybe jokes, the kind told when someone sneezes too loud and lives to tell about it. But then you met them. It began with smoke. Not the accidental kind, not the faint scent of wet pine, but thick, pulsing smoke curling above the trees like a finger waving you over. The clan watched it warily from the ridge. Someone signed "Fire Fools," another signed "They Want to Be Found." And then came the sound. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. Voices, not whispers, not sobs, chanting. Your breath caught? Ko's jaw dropped. Even the leader stiffened. You set out in pairs, careful, cautious. You and the teen girl, your constant companion, now volunteered. She signed, "If they sing, they'll never hear us coming." But as you crept through the birch trees, the chanting grew clearer. Not chaotic, not random, rhythmic, patterned, musical almost. And there they were, a ring of people, not many, maybe 20, faces painted with ochre and soot, bones woven into their braids, feet bare. They were dancing around a fire, hands raised, chests moving in unison. And they were loud. You and the girl dropped low, hiding in the brush. She signed insane. You signed back brave. Historians still debate whether Ice Age humans experimented with sound as ritual or only later as population density allowed safer settlement. The theory goes when predators are less of a threat, culture grows louder. Music, prayer. Storytelling, all once luxuries, now necessities. These people weren't hiding from anything. You watched as one man tilted his head back and sang, not in words you knew, but vowel-rich sounds like wind echoing in a shells. His voice cracked, wavered, carried, and nothing attacked. No bears, no wolves, no saber-tooths storming from the trees, just silence. After an hour, the fire died low. The dancers stopped. No one ran. They sat together quiet now and passed something around, looked like roasted tubers and dried fish. You'd never seen people eat so loudly in your life. Laughing, talking, talking. You stayed until nightfall. The girl tugged your sleeve when she saw your expression. She signed, "You're smiling too hard." That night, you couldn't sleep. because it felt like the silence that had kept you alive also kept something else buried. A part of you that remembered laughter with breath, singing with lungs, words that didn't need signs. Oddly enough, the next morning, Ko made up a song, not with sound, but with motion. He stood near the firearms, waving feet, stamping, mouthing exaggerated vowels. It was ridiculous. It was wonderful. Everyone tried not to encourage him, but you all watched. You thought of the chanting clan, of their courage, their recklessness. Later, the leader gathered the clan and signed a new migration route. South. Not toward them, but not away either. You walked for days, and then at dusk you saw them again, this time at a distance across a valley. You didn't approach. They didn't either. But one of them, an older woman, her face striped with blue, raised her arm and sang. One long, slow note that floated like a bird. The girl beside you signed what now? You didn't know, but you stepped forward slowly and raised your hand. Not to signal, to wave. And for the first time in a very long while you whispered, "Hello." No one died. One final signal under a dying moon. That's all you have left now. It begins with frostbite. Not yours, thankfully, but the leader's. You spot it as he laces his wrap too tightly, covering the blackened tips of 2 fingers. He hides it well. Everyone pretends not to notice. That's how these things go. But when he starts to lag behind the group, no longer walking at the center, but off to the side, not even Ko needs to be told what's coming. The clan has reached the end of the winter road. The rivers are beginning to thaw, the moss is peeking through the snow, and animals no longer look like shadows. They look like meat again. There's talk by sign and glance of a new route, a new rhythm. But the leader won't go with them. The teen girl pulls you aside one morning, signs slowly, "He'll stay behind." You blink, stunned. Alone, she nods. He's choosing. You think of all the times his hands spoke before his mouth ever could. The fingers that taught you the difference between move and run, between stay low and stay alive. The signals that felt like rope in a storm. Now they tremble slightly when he makes them. He gathers the clan that night. No fire, no noise, just a crescent moon like a hook hanging in the sky. He signs the story of his first hunt, of his brother's joke about mammoths that smelled like wet dogs, of the time he mistook bear scat for mushrooms and nearly poisoned himself. The children stifle their giggles behind their hands. His hands slow. He signs, "I am tired." No one argues. In this world, death isn't taken. It's offered. He points to you. You freeze. He signs, "You show them now." You've seen this moment played out before. The passing of leadership is not ceremonial. It's silent. It's understood. You sign back, hesitant. "I'll try." He touches your shoulder once, not as approval, as memory. You spend the next day walking with him, just the two of you. He teaches without teaching. Pauses at trees, makes the same mark 3 times. Taps a stone 3 times. Leaves his hunting knife wedged in a tree root. It's not for anyone else. It's for you. He draws a spiral in the mud. Crosses it. You nod. Then the moon rises thin and dying. He stops at the ridge. He signs nothing. Just looks. And you understand here, this is where I end. You do not speak. You do not cry. You raise your hand. Palm flat, then closed. The final signal. You walk away, slow breath fogging behind you. No one follows. No one asks. They all know. Later, around the fire, Ko crawls into your lap without permission. He traces a circle on your knee, then a line through it. "Spiral," he mouths. You nod. The girl sits across from you, signing softly. He was ready. You reply, "I wasn't." The next morning, the clan moves on. But before you leave, you place a carved bone at the edge of the ridge. His, yours now. You add a mark of your own, a simple dot inside the spiral. A new beginning. You lead the clan down the hill. The trees whisper. The birds scatter. Somewhere behind you, the wind changes. But you do not turn back. Not even once. In a world ruled by silence, you learn to survive not with words, but with eyes, hands, and breath. From the flick of a finger to the hush of morning dances, the language of Ice Age hunters becomes your own. You watch a baby still. Its cries beneath a mother's palm feel stories told in firelight shadows, and discover that even laughter has a silent form. You make maps with sticks and deception with footprints. You mourn without sound. You learn that betrayal can be spoken in a glance, and trust must be earned one quiet moment at a time. Through frost, fear, and fire, the clan teaches you that silence is not emptiness, it is precision, memory, love, and warning. You meet a child who communes with animals and clans who dare to sing. You encounter relics carved with secrets that no one can quite decipher. You lose people. You gain purpose. And slowly, without realizing it, you become someone who can speak volumes without ever making a sound. When your leader gives you the final signal, one wordless hand raised under a dying moon, you take up the mantle. Not with pride, not with fear, but with understanding. The silence once foreign is now your voice, and you carry it forward one step at a time into the next shadow of the ages.